Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We do have one more match to get covered today and have a bit of a good time with. France versus Croatia. I'll be covering it as a solo cast, and we'll see exactly how that boils down. Sure, we got plenty of coverage. We had a very exciting full 3-game series earlier. Actually had a bit of back and forth, pretty competitive games the whole way through. Able to do some pretty grand surprises and catch me off guard, at least. Trying to get the full process going. But, of course, with that one more match, we still have a couple of questions to get answered. Maybe some more developments to learn about of these different players, what they want to play with their heroes, and get to see what exactly these two teams want to work with. Been able to go into drafts. We've seen some new heroes get spotlighted into the top. Things like the Shadow Demon, a little bit of Surprise Sven action going on through. On the other side, I mean, we've seen other heroes like the Broodmother recently get picked up. A lot of Timbersaw getting bans and love. And I have a suspicion that we might be seeing at least a few more of those going on through. Got our French roster of Cry, Zeppelin, Atoof, ATX, and Travichka. Getting up that French roster that will be holding one side of the fort in this national battle. Of course, it is focused on the national representation, playing for countries, rather than the more traditional sort of teams. It's a little bit of a different format in that sort of way. You know, they're very distinct for a lot of ways they play Counter-Strike, and maybe they'll be distinct in a lot of ways that they like to play Dota 2. This we'll be able to see today. Hopefully. It'll be quite exciting there. But of course, they'd have to have some opponents as well to go against. And as mentioned before, it will be the Croatian squad. Be a bit of a mystery what exactly they'll be going for. We've seen, what was it? A bit of Primal Beast it was. Another exciting one. But just as exciting as this Croatian roster, got Dimos, Mitch, DZY, Beauty, and DNZ to stack up that 5. Go up against the French lineup tonight. A lot of mysteries. We've been starting to see a little bit more of the Primal Beast after getting the damage nerfs and then his damage reclaimed back. It's been seeing a little bit of interest in growing the love back into using him once again. Now, the question is, what do the teams want to go with? What's going to be the next thing brought up? I would say Sven's been the main surprise of the day. Of course, this is to see if we have a tiebreaker in Group A. A couple of the other groups, like Group C, got resolved earlier today. Same with Group D. Still got a little bit of a mystery, unless that happens to... Or that actually was handled earlier today, rather, as Hungary did lose to Denmark 2-1. Letting them end up being the first in that group, and we're figuring out to resolve that last one now between Norway and France, or Croatia and France, sorry, to see if we get the full 1-1 tiebreaker, or if one of the teams is able to properly move on. It's going to be up to France to prove that they're top to 3 to move to that next stage in our qualifiers, or else they'll get pulled away and be put into that dangerous best-of-1 back-and-forth situation between each of the teams. Bit of a round robin to decide who goes forward, if I recall. But for now, it's a best-of-3 to try to seal it all, and Croatia already being 1 down, it's already going to be setting up a rough pace for them. And now the fact that we get to get into the draft, that's where we can see what sort of bands and everything gets prepared. We're going to start off with the classic Shadow Demon that's been starting to rear its head and be so deadly multiple times over. First banned out by Team France. Good awareness of its power, especially able to disperse the buffs and cancel out reductions in damage, say, from an Underlord. So plenty of benefits to be able to work with, which adds plenty of threats to be concerned about. Same with the Beastmaster. Same sort of harassment. France deciding to focus a little bit more on the supports. Oh, Croatia wants to get rid of one or two of the solid offlaners to begin. Beastmaster we haven't seen too much of. Been usually pretty useful in having solid impact, but not one of these flashy, complete game-destroying heroes like some of them may have been. Like the Shadow Demon, maybe like a good old Phantom Lancer. You know, sorts, and actually going to the reserve time. Starting on the Doom, Croatia sticking with the offlaners to remove. And France will decide the support they want to go with is the Undying. A costly one, as he has to dedicate so much of his spending towards mana expenses. Can make it difficult to afford mistakes.
10 seconds remaining.
Mainly benefits the best in that really early game. Having that Tombstone damage and slow. With a bit of that decay to yoink some strength as well. Then in Croatia banned 2, or I guess 1.5 strength cores, technically, with the Universal Hero, or 1 1/3. Depends on perspective, really. Used to be strength beforehand, with the changes.
Radiant team pick.
Of course, they'll burn through more of their reserve as they need to go through and pick both of their heroes, and the Darkseer is a great counter to pretty much any physical attacker. By getting the illusions that can attack back with the exact same ferocity.
10 seconds remaining.
Plenty of mobility, unique harassment, and even the vacuum
5 seconds
for
remaining.
positioning. Work well with heroes like Disruptor. Keep people not only in the Disruptor ult,
Dire team pick.
but force them to be in the center of it for the maximum damage. But another fun option being brought out, Snapfire. Been playing her a little bit recently. Very adaptable hero, can jump in at plenty of different roles without any complaints or issue.
Team ban. Points away. Radiant team ban.
Just sort of one of the main benefits to note. The fact that they can play around this strength. Going into a bit more.
Dire team ban.
But we've seen in Counteraction is, of course, the Pangolier. One of these universals, usually seen mid, that is insanely strong at just having the solid impact, the influence to help support in the team fights. Be able to get that full coordination to wrap on through.
10 seconds remaining.
To provide in the proper support.
5 seconds.
Here's now to go for another set of bans. Interestingly enough, the Lycan and the Terrorblade. Heard murmurings of a Lycan safe lane build, abusing the universal damage, like how people did in the previous patch with the Batten.
Radiant team ban.
But now, a lot of the meta carries getting removed by France with the Bloodseeker, the PL, the Ember. Croatia is sticking mostly to their offlane focus, besides the Terrorblade. And the AM to boot with it. With all these heroes banned out, starts making the Medusa look like perhaps a fairly strong pickup to make.
10 seconds remaining.
Especially considering Croatia will have that first pick if they wish. Of course, we've seen it backfire beforehand.
Dire team pick.
As strong as that Medusa can be, if you can just ignore her and deal with the rest of the team,
Team pick.
push early, Could be hard to have any impact. We're going to go for these high damage 4s of the Sky Wrath and the Enchantress on both sides. France confident in their choice. But with all this lockdown and high damage harassment, still a severe lack of stuns by France, an unreliable one, at least on the Snapfire cookie for Croatia.
Radiant team pick.
Usually it's the reliance on the stuns or disables of some kind to win games, and that's exactly what the Legion provides. Does get counteracted a bit by the Sky Wrath, but could be an answer just to pick him off, or just to be able to build up some rather good strength, or punish the Sky with the Blade Mail, of course. Plenty of options available for just exactly that. And as Croatia goes in their last 2 picks, they're going to be scratching their head of how to answer this Legion. So you can get away with building Diffusal if you really have to. And most importantly, this is locked down for any evasive cores that might try to get out of dodge like a monkey. Really punishes him to stay in place and get caught out. Or even the Quap. Wanting to have a target the Legion has to focus on other than the Sky Wrath.
Radiant team ban.
Be able to get the pick off with. Still a bit of a mystery as they have to piece this all together. Likely, I would imagine, with their safe lane core. But of course, this will be after the bans, and even Medusa banned out. So the safe lane pool entirely torn apart by both of these teams, including the Morphling.
10 seconds remaining.
I have to wonder what their next goal will be. This is certainly a very odd situation. But 2 minutes of reserve time for France, so they have all the time in the world to talk about this. Think about what they want their last play to be. How do they ban around getting benefits off of it, or just supporting their team as a whole? So they do have this focus on lane domination. Solid early game. The early Pango nuke with the Legion. With an arrow or 2 from the Enchantress. Can do quite a bit and allow this Legion to snowball out of control. But what do Croatia want to try to wrap around with this? As the best option that perhaps come to mind is perhaps the Chaos Knight to try to counter the Legion. Have the AoE nuke and burst her down before she's able to counteract. But deciding on the Void instead as a ban. I mean, Legion usually can counteract it pretty hard unless he has a nice early game. Is able to get the necessary farm. Can cancel out the early harassment from the Enchantress and the Legion.
5 seconds remaining.
But most importantly, could be due to that last pick. Whatever they want to go for with Bloodseeker removed. Might be going for one of these ranged Agi cores players used to go for. I don't think it's going to be one of those core Lenas, but no reason we couldn't see the Sniper that recently has been given some buffs. Could have someone fold back in the Drow with the awkwardness of the situation. There's the ability to blink and gank a bit. There's some interesting plays like the Octarine Ursa. Constant silences that the Slark could dispel. A fantastic last ban from Croatia. But of course, with a Sven being brought out, solid stun, lockdown, counteract with more blink initiation. happily willing to fight early. And with the Slark and the Bloodseeker taken out, they have to find some way to maintain sustained fighting, and they think the answer to that is going to be the Ursa. This is something that can situationally work. However, the Legion can enjoy playing against him, as the Legion's going to build a lot more tanky items, armor to reduce that damage, and most importantly, blade mail to punish the Ursa for the damage he provides. So, as an Agi hero, this is something that certainly can be exploited by the Legion alone, let alone all of the poking and prodding, the Slow of the Undying, yoinking what little strength he does have, the Pango harassing, maybe even kiting with the Diffusal. Seems like a beautiful setup from Team France going into game number 1. Unless, for whatever reason, I may be deceived. It's an interesting draft, but the cores for both these teams feel a little bit on the odd side. I normally take my roots a little bit more with the lovely Bear, but it seems like he might be a little too grizzled and tested in this match. Unless I'm mistaken, which is always possible. So the curses do come in. Considering the focus on the Terrorblade and the AM, I would say the Sven's the closest you can get to that. Have to spend a little bit more gold on the utility, but still does that same thing where he can blink in, do that burst damage, which certainly helps out with the Legion getting damage done.
Try harder.
As we do have the early smoke, we've seen most of the fights be towards the Radiant jungle, but this time instead, they're trying to figure out who's mid. The smoke was revealed. Able to confirm it on the Pango and de-ward that Dire Observer, but it's going to come at a price as the Snapfire is getting tagged down, and an Impetus will be able to secure it from the Enchantress as the Snapfire attempts to run away. Counter trade, and that's 2 of the 4 Observer wards early on, already completely removed and taken out. With absolutely no issue. Which certainly should just leave things in a bit more of a questionable spot, perhaps, as there'll be no vision for either of these cores mid. Nice harassment, looks like traded about equally on the bounty runes. Main issue is the Darkseer doesn't really enjoy dealing with the Sven, can just cleave all the creeps, really just worry about jungling, not too concerned about any of the Darkseer's lane harassment with the Ion Shell. Usually can just pass it on, leave it alone. Meanwhile, this Ursa that wants to try to lane dominate, get kills early, sort of like a Monkey King would, will be in a very difficult situation to get anywhere close to that. Having the Snapfire slow to harass with the Scatter Blast will be at least a bit useful. Really up to how these lanes boil down. For the start is about as expected. The attempts to harass with the Ion Shell works nice in the level 1 or 2 before the Sven has proper stats and items. Of course, there's a little bit of that combat happening in both these lanes right now. Skyra tries to harass, but that Blood Grenade goes through the Tombstone perfectly to follow Decay to do the damage. And unlikely for his Darkseer to get Surge anytime soon, let alone in time. So it is a double for the Undying Sven combo. We had that on top of the Snapfire First Blood. It's a clean 3-0 start. Pango's having to invest a little bit in regen, but it's allowing him to punish this Quap and leave her a little bit behind on the early stages of the lane. Blood Grenade, the difference maker, allowing the Legion and Ursa to trade. We're to be able to find that kill first, though, giving the Enchantress the gold. Team France likely not to complain about that. A little bit more of the right-click harass this Undying on cooldown for a little bit as he tries to recoup his mana. Still has his Tombstone on cooldown for a solid 30 seconds. This Finn struggling to regen his HP back as this continuous spell harassment from the Skywrath Mage comes on in. Pulling the lane won't make anything easier. Dying soon, bound to be taken down, but instead, the Warcry with the stun doesn't do much damage, but does get enough to get the Skywrath Mage away from his team. At least momentarily. Changes the pace of the aggression. Now just focus on getting those creep waves cleaned on up. Well, safe lane having a great time while this Pango. Of course, the poison does lead to a bit of harassment. Hard to use that bottle to regen, but overall, still in favor of winning it out. Ursa trying to get some early jungle stacks. You can see the Team France blocking the camps, understanding that Ursa would capitalize more on it than they could. It looks like the Tombstone zombies will be able to get a pick-off on the Skywrath. Darkseer this time around should be able to have the surge to run away if needed. Speaking of needing to run away, this Ursa is about to go down. The Legion's wanting to turn it to try to hunt him. But a nice arrow and a quick Lotus to save. Ursa will live to see another day. Legion can try to recoup some regen in a way that Ursa cannot.
Kind of you.
The long-range arrows keep dive bombing from behind. Unable to find any of that space. Yeah, the Ursa wanting to go for the classic Battle Fury. Able to get plenty of stacks on the Legion. And even with the cookie stun, it's a bit of a rough kill to pull off. And even with all that grinding, he immediately dies right after the fact, feeding even more gold into this Enchantress. Which would likely rather have the kills than even the ability to last hit, if it was better for her to do so. Reset back top, the Darkseer trying to effectively cut the jungle and the creeps. Most of the trees cut on down, no way to hide safely in this lane. Quick response of the sentry being blocked, and even though these two are low, all the dying from that Undying strength is going to absolutely devastate him. Now the Darkseer left alone, the stun to combo. He does have the mana to surge away. Needs to use it to get his HP back as the Quap has to go back to base. No mana to harass this Pango, getting taken on out. It's a lovely gank from the Snapfire. Rotating in with a bit of surprise cookie. The Undying knowing he's likely to be doomed as well. Best to just get that little bit of regen on the way out. Surprisingly not going for the teleport, wanting to just save it in case there was a lot more damage about to be pumped through. But the Pango has the DD and a bit of a surprise of his own. Could have gone for the Rolling Thunder, but instead we'll try to get some right clicks, like a fifth of the Skywrath's HP from that alone. And because of that rotation, the Legion's able to take full advantage of the Ursa, taking him down.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Double damage still up for about another 20 seconds. doing so much to the co-op, forcing her to blink away. Already left the half. And now with the ganking gone, the Surge will save the Darkseer, but still with the tombstones to worry about maybe a last-second decay, but it does give the stick charges necessary for his survival, and a quick rotation from the Skywrath should be enough to nuke the Secure if they weren't stacked together, giving 8 more strength to him to keep his life going, and he just continues with this harassment, burning down the cells. The Sven's taking advantage. Snapfire's having to use a salve to keep her life. The fantastic cookie, but the Scatter Blast needs to be found to connect this. The co-op instead will almost secure it. A whiff scream, but a Snapfire right click will get the job done regardless. But this is so many resources for a co-op that's already losing her lane. Try to find something to work with as the Pango continues to free farm. The Orb of Corrosion, the Arcane Shreds, and as pointed out in that other camera, we got some juicy stacks going on. Chia, good old Cry. Now even more harassment. Quap getting punished for trying to run away, getting nice burst damage in, and the cookie will stop the Rolling Thunder from coming in just yet, but the magic immunity is a bit of an issue trying to finish, but the stick charge is making all the difference. If it wasn't for the fact that this Enchantress is absolutely unkillable, no stuns available to stop her from getting away.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Feels like France are already starting to toy with their food. 3k net worth lead. That Legion topping the last hits. And having the Ursa die mid, trying to rotate to kill Enchantress. Only going to have things go from bad to worse.
Cold and sweet.
Nice good old traditional bottle swap, but that's at 4th or 5th time we've seen that camp stack now. So a boatload of ancients for the Sven. So even if he gets picked off, caught out alone, a little bit of help with Darkseer in the wall, and even the Sven having his own tower burnt down by himself, won't be much of an issue. It's likely with a bit of help from maybe the Undying, likely the Pangolier. Ancient should be no issue. Tombstone dropped. Immediate first source of dual damage found. You can see she's going ahead, working on that Blade Mail. Doesn't feel the necessary need for the Blink Dagger. They turn it into 2 to keep it up by 3k and get the mid tower along with it, getting a bit of that map control. This replay is beautiful to see because we can note how the Legion traveled through the jungle, and the Skywrath that's normally impossible to chase, instead Legion's able to freely walk to, appear from the side of the trees, catch him by surprise, snapshot him in a lovely little duel. Now you can see just the existence of the Legion is enough. The Ursa's waiting to go on in, and the Legion will immediately back away. The Snapfire looking to get that punishment in, but of course with the Blade Mail active, even if the kill's found, it will cost a little bit of help. Pango a little bit late going on in, able to dash, but the stun, thanks to that Snapfire, so flawless with his cookie. The Undying trying to do his best, but he attacked the Sentry, trying to de-ward, and the Ursa bothered to deny it before the Undying could. Using that quick attack speed, he's able to burst out with the Empower. Absolute brilliant play to go through. Good awareness how to use that overpower. The Sven not going for the ancient stacks just yet. Focus instead on some safer top lane jungling, as the Darkseer will join him and take some of those further camps closer to that Roshan outpost. that, Team France will decide to try to take this dire position on the map. Yeah, you can see the focus, the circle from the Snapfire, wanting to hunt down, gank this Sven. As the rest of this team really pushes elsewhere. Here's the Pengos are farming the stacks. I don't know exactly how many of the stacks he's farming, but you can see the Sven's already backing away to join his team, recognizing most of Croatia are missing from the map. So the gank will end in a failure. It's a fantastic play. And it seems like the Ancients are still stacked up, and the Sven's about to profit off of it. If we can get that camera on him. Okay, no, it seems like the Pengo cleared out the stacks earlier. Fair enough. But still, at least some Ancients for him to be able to farm. So the entire point he's here is to avoid the rest of the map. We can see a couple of those arcane rings, 3 of the fairy bracelets on the Radiant side. Oh yeah, but there is this double stack turned into 3. The Atos is there on the Skywrath. That's good to point out. One benefit as the Sven will be quite a ways away from the BKB. In fact, planning to skip it entirely. So it could be exploited there. I think the important thing, though, is this smoke gank that's now getting highlighted. As this Legion has the Blink Dagger, has the Blade Mail, and this Quap has nowhere to run as multiple impetus arrows help assist that additional damage. Allow the Legion to get her own additional damage. Get the kill as they control around this tier 2 area. Or Team Croatia able to do the same. Cut the waves.
That's got to hurt.
And really try to work on getting these 2 early tier 2s at the 13-minute mark.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
A bit wild to see.
Is under attack. I feel sad for them.
But man, he wants to get that Atos going, just chilling, waiting for someone to rotate under that tower. Has the observer wards there for the vision. Just waiting for the mistake to be made. But seems like France are not playing their game and expecting these exact sort of moves. Still playing entirely around the dire jungle.
Fortification in place. Radiant's bottom tower is
Just the
under
bottom
attack.
side of the map as a whole. Ursa will finally pick up some late phase boots. And I guess this is one of those heroes that it could, in theory, lock down outside of the Rolling Thunder. Stop Pengo from getting all that swashbuckle damage out. Lovely sentry from Snapfire, able to catch that Observer. Trying to protect the push to that tier 2 tower, but of course there is some catches with it. The Skywrath does have that opportunity to smoke gank, but he has the vision. He doesn't want to try to fight this Undying, though, and the danger now is the Legion could be coming after him. In fact, there's a lot more going their way, but these dire observer wards from Team France, they know they're trying to get the early Roche put away, and they're being forced back. Even the scan to confirm. There will be no secrets played here.
Dire's middle tower is all alone in the
Deciding to try to smoke their way through. I don't know if that ended up being seen. The Tombstone has been wasted. The Undying landing it onto 3. Legion caught exposed. The press of the attack is early, so the Atos is able to get the surprise, allowing the Snapfire to burst that ulti. But now the Undying knocks another 2 connected with the decay. And as much as the Ursa is trying to burn down the Pangolier, it's not in time, and the Sven can start running and chasing the rest of this team. And able to ignore the Darkseer wall. The move slow from it is a bit annoying, as well as the illusions likely to soon get the Undying killed in a trade. But so is the rest of Croatia. The Snapfire, the only one left, ult already used. All for their desire to want to get this Roshan on the Ursa early with that bonus gold. But instead, we can see both teams profiting off the gold early, but that Enchantress, all that gold she was getting early, gave her top-notch. Press the attack. She still has the cookie to dodge, but it shouldn't be enough. Brought down low. Even the Pangolier sniped from the distance with the swashbuckle. And this should be a Legion about 40 bonus damage, 38. Already starting to get that power. Meanwhile, the Quap just got her Witchbane as the courier traveling to get that point booster. Start working on the Ags to try to benefit off the silences to try to stop Team France from having the same level of demolition, especially considering if that Scream is put onto the Legion. Can't hard dispel anyone. Force her to get a dispel of her own to be able to handle it. Which can, of course, be countered by a Hex later. Plenty of ways to handle that. There's one details worth noting of how this Quap starts helping to create space. As the Sven is already getting farmed up, he will go for the BKB. 2k ahead of the Ursa. On the bright side, generally tries to avoid buying the BKB unless he must. There's only enough up of these on the Snapfire. Try and take physical damage. And we got that Dragon Lance working on the Pike. This Enchantress halfway there and able to get plenty of farm with all the space Team France have been able to create. Even worse as this Quap tries to farm down in this bottom lane, down in the mines. Legion with the Sven's going to be stealing away half of it. Even, oh god, she's going for the Octarine early. You normally do this with the Vanguard builders, but she wants to have that ult to be brought out. Can get that Ags as well later on. And as I double check myself, I want to say it's about a 45-second cooldown at the level she's going to be at. 55, sorry. So we'll be cutting off almost a solid 15 seconds off that duel duration. Able to consistently keep getting that bonus damage, because I guess the Sven doesn't have enough damage for this team already. Certainly, why not? And every single time they try to go for this Roshan, understandably on the dire side, they try to keep vision on Team France. Those last Snapfire hits will break through, but all of Team France will rotate over to the Radiant side, understanding that there might be a Quap jungling around here somewhere. And on top of it, it stops Croatia from being able to go for that Roshan once again, as they know everyone is here, even dedicating the Sven ult to try to steal this Roshan away. They have nothing to work with on Team Croatia. This is one of those full slow grinds. They can go for these fights. They can try to compete. It's only a 6k net worth disadvantage, but now with the Sven having an Aegis, they might want to turn around, but it's going to be too little too late. They got to find a strong way into this, but instead, it will be the Skywrath immediately taken out by the blink of the Sven. The Enchantress won't be able to have the same level of success thanks to the Quap flanking on the back line. But more dual damage for the Legion. Most importantly, the Roshan taken to begin with. The Ags on the Pangolier almost completed, so that's even more mana burn. Going to make it more difficult for the Ursa and the Quap to harass, although they do catch the Undying with a bit of an opening. And the Pangolier could be stuck in the same situation. He's used his Rolling Thunder. It's not going to be easy for him to get out of this, especially with the Darkseer Surge chasing him down. Surrounded, taken out. Ursa now with the Battle Fury, able to be somewhat competitive with the Sven at his own game of the cleaving. You can see that does get the gold and redemption, considering the Roshan does work out. But if this Skywrath Mage goes down once again, could be a bit problematic if it wasn't for the fact that the rest of the team is here. The Enchantress is trying to do her best to create the space to save him, but Age is spent up. This is Enchantress unlikely to have a way to get him out of this, as the God Strength's already been used. The duel trying to dedicate towards the Brawl. The Snapfire ult on its own, even without Skywraths, doing hefty bits of work in terms of damage. And no way to deny that teleport out. And of course, Dark's here. A little bit of a cheeky fast boy, about to get his Wall of Replica if he wants to try to use it against the Legion in these duels. She does have that Octarine compete, but it isn't just that fast yet. She decides to go fully greedy with the Ags after. Could be a bit different. Amazing juking from the Legion, actually, to get out of that. Ensuring the safety and, in fact, be ahead of the Ursa still. Garrett getting a little bit curious. He's trying to rely on this Ghost Scepter. But a beautiful blink from the Legion. Able to disjoint it before it connects, with the warning sound being heard. Seems more time for Sven to free farm. Got that BKB. He's working on a Silver Edge next, which is going to make predicting a gank on him even harder. I don't think anyone on Croatia's considered buying Dust yet. They do have some sentries on that dire side of the map. They're going to have no form of detection, just the Quap nuke. And the break actually completely hard countering the Ursa. Will stop him from having any solutions and play with those Fury swipes. He is working on his own BKB as the Blink Dagger, but severely underfarmed in comparison to his burst of Sven, which, even though he doesn't have the Silver Edge yet, he still wants to go for a fight. He understands that they have the lead. Check for vision up on the high ground. Find the bear. Start bursting him down. He will be able to teleport out with the Enrage, or at least attempt to, but the Legion last second will deny it and able to get a double. And it's honestly thanks to the Legion. The Sven's doing his job perfectly. This is Legion 94 dual damage. Went for the Octarine. I'm almost surprised she's going BKB. Screw it. Go for the Axe. Have the 20-second cooldown on the duel. They feel like they have enough damage. They want to push high ground. Even though just the 24-minute mark. But the fact this Ursa's dead. We'll decide to slow down, back away. 69 nice % chance to win in favor of France. I mean, you can see why. It's been very slowly, steadily snowballing. Got those neutrals up. A good amount of the Gossamer capes feel like have been slept on. Anything to note from Croatia? I guess the Guardian Greaves, but yeah, that's Sven has the Chrysalis. Have the Ags and everything on the Pangolier. The Guardian Greaves is not going to deal with all of this heavy damage coming out from Team France. As the entire goal is to duel someone, get them locked down, maybe use the Rolling Thunder to do a similar thing during the team fights, and just have the Sven smash them to a pulp, cleave them down. The willingness to want to go proactive towards the dire Roche Pit. Croatia able to get some farm going. And avoid this additional gank going in from Team France. Into the dire jungle to see if anyone's chilling here. Pup spent a good amount of her time, but realizing it's not safe any longer. And neither is this tier 2. As Stroke said, no arms to defend itself. This isn't one of those crab towers, so it couldn't be any further from the truth. And he's just going to fully dedicate the God Strength and destroy this tier 3. Sure, the Snapfire ult will come in, but a Force Staff, no PKB required. Forcing all these rotations just to defend their high ground, where France can now walk away and start freely farming with no way for Croatia to respond. Legion Commander almost finishing the BKB. Actually should have it finished after she sells out some of these spare items she doesn't need, like this Quelling Blade. Maybe the Magic Wand or Bracer needs to get rid of at least one of them. This Undying might be a poor victim of the Ursa, though. As the Blink Dagger comes in, trying to lasso himself. With the chase, he should be too fast, but it's going to take the slow from the Quap Dagger for the Ursa to be able to chase. That Undying, surprisingly quick on his feet. Certainly surprising me a little bit.
Precious bounty.
With the Poison Dagger being required. I guess that asks the question, why is the Undying so fast? Well, like, he's not one of the faster heroes. But what the Skywrath is best for is that nuke, but the problem is it's not the early game anymore. The Atos with the single ult is not going to be enough. You need the Snapfire with it. This Pango's universal. He's built too many stats. He can take your ult easily, and you're too far behind in net worth. Even with the nice Quap ult into the Darkseer ult, the Sven happy to beat his own illusions at the game. Most of the mana from the Darkseer taken out. The Legion Commander now going for the Ags after getting that defensive BKB just in case. Looks like he won't be able to run away. Disarmed, actually able to get the Surge off again, and there is no Nullifier on Team France.
Dire's middle tower now belongs to the Aegis.
Still, it is okay. 300 base movement speed on the Undying, so he is pretty speedy.
Dire's top tower is under
This does create some space for the Quap to farm, but you can see the Legion ready to hunt against her. Instead, gets a Skywrath, but the BKB is exactly for that Atos. So this is Skywrath dying twice within the past 2 minutes. Both to the Legion, giving her another 30 dual damage, which is only going to stack up to become more and more, considering that Axe is soon to be coming out.
top tower is under attack.
To give that additional damage reduction, the duration. Cuts the cooldown to 30 seconds, by the way. We watch these lovely replays. The Quap fortunate enough to get away with her life. You can see trying to use the Poison Daggers to at least give some support, but that Snapfire is caught completely out of position. And this net worth lead just keeps snowballing out of control. Croatia can't find their way back into this. It's a slow and insidious death at the moment. It's only going to get worse because once that Ag's picked up, we're talking about a Legion with a 22-second duel timer. Every 22 seconds, she'll get a duel, which she's won every single one with no issue. Get an additional 38 damage up to every 30 seconds, which is absolutely terrifying. Yeah, she's already only 800 gold away from it.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Make it 600 with those jungle creeps picked off. Being with Sven a little bit, but knowing that the Legion has the duel back online, getting another pick and keeping that duel on countdown like a really spicy hand of Midas would be a bit nicer of an option. Then they can't go for the ganks. Croatian heroes. I mean, most of them, besides honestly the Ursa and the Snapfire, have fantastic mobility, and even then you have the Pounce, the Ursa with his Uproar, the Cookie. Plenty of ways for all these heroes to escape. Yeah, he's got that Skull Basher now. It's going to be a little bit more terrifying. Although that Skull Bash, you may be able to stun lock the Sven once, but his team should be able to adjust to make it a second. As the Sven and Legion are competing for who can add the most base damage. Despite the fact that the Sven should be favored for that, with 200% bonus. And again, this has been the case the entire game. This Legion has been 2k net worth above the Ursa. It's a nice pickup to go for. The entire problem is that Legion enjoys playing against the bear, especially considering that Sven is probably actually has completed the Silver Edge, and now the Ags also completed on the Legion. Talking about the 22 seconds, the reduced damage. So any of these spells cast are not going to phase the Legion at all. She's just waiting to be able to have that excuse to possibly pop that BKB, to be able to get that blink in. Just letting the Pango get that vision and information beforehand. Waiting for that wall to be used to be able to safely take the duel without it. Doesn't get used against her. And you can see this Legion, sure, she gets burst for about a quarter of her health, but the Undying able to easily heal that. And soon, this wall, the Fade, the Darkseer out of this. Ursa, a nice attempt, but a nice save with the strength. And that is a lane of Rax about to be removed. If it wasn't for the fact they will have the Skywrath Mage buy back, they have spent most of their BKBs, they've lost their Aegis. They don't want to fight in the high ground anymore. They want to reset, keep this advantage. This is exactly what the current Dota is about. It's about the more traditional, you get the advantage, you play around it, you don't give any kills away, you just slowly choke out your opponent.
Double damage.
And while all this is happening, we got the Hurricane Pike on the Enchantress, I'm sure, so she's been able to pump out all the damage. Saw that she did half of the Snapfire's HP with a single right click. But of course, the Sven, now with this double damage, able to make it quadruple damage any moment he feels like. Technically, it would be triple damage. There's double of his base damage plus the original double damage. That's how the math actually works. You can see this Enchantress absolutely eviscerating the Darkseer. No assistance needed. Plus the lockdown on the Ursa with the Sven and the Legion. No way to escape. And with that Rax taken out, no buybacks available. This is the exact reason why so many people, especially in the pubs, fear the Legion. Amazing Snapfire ult. Does get that highlight of damage. But sentries are down on the ground. The only good news is that the Legion already noticed the GG being called, so wasn't going for that additional dual damage. And an amazing first game from Team France. Understanding exactly how to counteract the Ursa, the Quap having an impossible time against the Pango. And even finding ways to help create space for the Sven to recover, even though he had a rough offlane against the Skywrath harassment. Even with the Undying there, keeping it rather competitive. I mean, you can see the stats. He's nothing more than the Force Staff and Guardian Greaves, but that's all he needs. 21k net worth on the Legion. 198 dual damage. In fact, is that doing more? Go back to the damage of the heroes there. Oh. It looks like the Legion did as much as the Sven, if not more, unless I was crazy, due to the farming the Sven had to do at one point. That is absolutely crazy to see. As France absolutely manhandled Croatia in this first one, and is looking like a rough showing going into this. I wasn't sure exactly how well the Sven was going to do, seeing him once today, and proved to be rather impressive. But it seems like Sven's just back on the menu, looking like a great, solid one of these carries, able to get the burst damage. Of course, struggles still in the lane early, does have those few weaknesses, but something that's able to be played around, of course. And with that benefit, it lets them really piece everything together, especially when you have this Legion that, as I mentioned from the get-go, the second I saw the Ursa, I'm like, I don't know how this Ursa is supposed to beat a Legion in lane. It's a difficult matchup. The Legion's able to fully profit off of it, counteract him multiple times, and the Quap to try to be an answer to the Legion is a decent idea, but it doesn't pan out to have any impact in the slightest. Just completely shut down, torn apart, not allowing anything to happen, because it doesn't matter who she blinks and kills. She's really doing it for the damage. They don't need the lockdown or the chase, really. So we will be able to see our MVP for that first game, and I do think the Sven is a fair shot to give it to. A lot of those flashy nukes getting the heart of that damage in, and most importantly, the building damage later on, so that not only once they built that lead about at the 20-minute mark, they were able to push that advantage and start going for racks. The second one or two of the heroes from Team Romania got caught out of position. For Croatia, my apologies. Just Team France doing such an amazing job with it. And we're gonna have to see if Croatia can find a way to find themselves back in game number 2. I'm not exactly sure what you ban out of it. Maybe you try to remove the Legion and have something else, but there's tons of these other plenty good offlaners like the Tidehunter, like the good old Beastmaster that was removed. Could go for a classic like the Brewmaster as well. Still seeing Doom get the play even with the Octarine nerfs brought in. So good success, and we'll see if they can keep that up as we go into game number 2. After this short little break, we'll be right back.
One purpose, one dream, one rhythm, one step closer to glory. Enemy spotted. They say history remembers the winner. So who will be the ones writing the future? The halls of power call for their kings. The ones who won't back down. The ones who believed. The ones who knew that over 100 nations can't be wrong. Join the fight between August 24th and September 3rd as Yash becomes the world's esports capital.
In the heart of Iași, Romania, the world's top gamers have gathered for the ultimate showdown. IESF brings heart-stopping matches across a variety of gaming genres in an electrifying experience that celebrates the passion and dedication of esports athletes from around the globe. This is more than just a tournament. This is where champions are born, legends are made, and anything is possible. Get ready to witness the ultimate display of skill, strategy, and heart. The IESF World Esports Championship. It's about to take your breath away.
Do you think you've got what it takes? The challenge will be tougher than ever. In 2023, international esports has a new home. Over 100 nations fighting for the championship in a celebration of everything that makes esports great. Who will rise up to the challenge? Who will be the world champion?
Hello everyone. Had a bit of a surprising game one. A bit of a grind. Pretty patient and slow from Team France to really be able to get that victory. Slowly taking their time, making sure they secure it in a clean fashion. Playing methodically as a team after winning that early laning phase. Understanding every single advantage they had and being able to push it across the line in a beautiful fashion to pitch it all together. A flashy game from both of the cores, the Sven and the Legion. Some proper support to be able to create space. The Pango to completely shut down. And as we do take a look on that good old leaderboard, that does set it up where France has an advantage against Croatia, looking to completely close it out, perhaps. It looks like we are getting to that ban phase, and we can see Croatia. The first thing they're removing is the Pango, as it completely shut down that Quap that could have been so problematic for them if she was able to actually have a feasible game on her hands. Or instead, shut down. France able to get that Undying. That really helped that Sven get off to the roll early. France going with the same bands of the Shadow Demon and the good old Techies. At best, just the Beastmaster with the Pango for the side of Team Croatia. Now their opportunity to string two together. What sort of idea do they want to go with this time? So the Darkseer did have a decent time in lane, just didn't have that same flashy impact as I'm sure they desired. Question is, what exactly do they want to do to handle it? Do they want to change with a different approach? They could even go for the approach of like stealing the Legion that was so problematic last game. Something like the Doom's a high priority for a lot of teams at the moment. Bit hard to say. I've seen some flashy plays off of a wild support 5 Pudge, which I don't think I'm going to see that happen again anytime soon. something we haven't seen at all, just period, an Earth Spirit as the first pick. That really throws things off, because I guess you don't really try to hard counter him necessarily in any way.
Ember Spirit.
And it really does throw a little bit of a wrench in the works in terms of how to handle him, and just going for the double spirits. Both the Ember and the Earth Spirit. Getting a little bit wild here.
It is Radiant's ban. Dire's turn to ban.
Taking a bit of a good look on just the benefits. There doesn't seem to be anything that strictly stands out at the moment in terms of the Earth Spirit. Unless there happens to be something crazy with the Ags they're planning to use, maybe? As otherwise, this seems like a little bit of a passover. And a wild pick. Team France able to get out their Terrorblade. The Huskar removed from Croatia. Plenty of nice ways to counter the Ember mid. We found that out. Not just the Pango. Huskar certainly another one. But really just any physical lane dominator will do. I imagine you could do a great time. Something like a Lone Druid comes to mind. Probably not the Quap. But you could punish it with something like a Slark. Something that Otomo, I believe, mentioned with me earlier. A little bit of a wild play, but it does certainly work.
Dire's turn to pick.
These bans, the PL, the Legion, an important one,
Radiant's
as it would
turn
find
to pick.
fantastic lockdown against all three of these cores on Team Croatia now. Well, that does bring in the classic of the Faceless Void. Would be forced to buy a BKB at one point if he didn't get the Coddle and the Chrono, depending on how the positioning and the team fights are going. But otherwise,
5 seconds remain.
an interesting idea for the draft. The Coddle does synergize well with both the Spirits, having that nice little bit of cooldown reduction to be able to piece together and find success of, give ways to control the Terrorblade, make it more difficult for him to do his job well. The question is, what exactly does France want to go for? Skywrath. Considering the ability of Faceless Void to be on the table, I do think this is one of the right plays to make. Skywrath synergizing wonderfully with that ulti. As you saw last game, the focus on the Sky, always getting that, you know, good old early Atos out, can benefit pretty well for his own ulti, and all these heroes are rather squishy against an Atos and everything else. And having a DK as an offlaner does have that blink stun, help have a little bit of that lockdown, but he's really more of these sustained team fighters, which I guess the Undying works with. The Skywrath, as bursty and flashy he has his ult is, he does kind of want to take time in the fight, so he constantly keep spamming silences and other spells. And DK, even though he doesn't build the Diffusal, and neither does the Terrorblade, it does allow you to create a generally insane amount of right-click damage and DPS that just innately will counter the Medusa.
10 seconds remain.
That, with the Coddle in lane, will make it a little bit easier to deal with. As the Chakra will give that cooldown reduction with the snakes and the mana restore. That's actually kind of disgusting and makes it work a little bit more like it used to be. You can have 5 seconds between snakes about every 12 seconds. That's actually pretty terrifying to have that synergy
10
out.
seconds remain. 5 remain.
The axe being banned out. One of these good lockdowns can shut down the Terrorblade, slam the Culling Axe on him before he can get off that beautiful Sunder. But I have a feeling it's going to be a similar build to the last Terrorblade we saw, where it was going straight for the Scotty off of the Yasha and getting the Manta later, just getting all those raw stats brought on through. And what would help with that sustain is something like an Underlord, just giving that giant aura of damage reduction. Make it difficult for any physical damage to come out from that Medusa. And likewise, the Doom's the best way to stop the Sunder, so it getting banned out by Team France, and understandably, picking an AM in this situation would be weird, but you can totally have the Terrorblade safe, the AM in the off lane, and have the DK play some mid against the Ember, which now that I think about it, would probably be the best way to play around with this DK, unless they got a different idea on the table. As they go into their last pick. Question is how they want to handle this. They do have a full minute and 30 to decide. Wonder if you want some kind of distance damage dealer of your own, because there's no way to really initiate on Croatia. They have a lot of ways to chase and to try to hunt you down and stay in the team fights at least a little bit. But the more that I think about it, these long-ranged heroes like the Sniper, I don't know how Team Croatia are supposed to deal with this. They have everything else kind of decided already, except maybe the off lane? And I wouldn't say there's any good blink stunners at the moment, unless you go for the Earthshaker. Team Croatia, meanwhile, if France can go anything they want, they won't be able to have that surprise factor that they would like. To figure out what they believe will simply just be the best for them. Silencer will stop a lot of these spells that are being cast and punish them with massive damage for doing so. Allow for the disengage, even if there is good initiation in the fights.
Dire must choose.
But they decide to go with the Spirit Breaker. Perfect offlaner, gets the ganks, and has that way to get the constant stunning and bashing that you traditionally get with the Legion, but gives you the exact same thing in the with a little bit of Space Cow spice.
10
Instead.
seconds.
A bit more fun.
5 seconds remain.
Great way to lock down all of these heroes and make it impossible for the Medusa to run away. The only thing that can stop it, I believe, is the Slay of Hands. They only have 15 seconds to decide this last pick. Likely to be an offlaner, and with Spirit Breaker picked, it's probably the best one they can go for. Maybe a Tusk with the Coddle, or the traditional Bristleback. But they decide on the Tide Hunter, as he has that Kraken Shell. Doesn't get nerfed the same way all the Vanguard carriers have. Reason why he's been riding back to the side of prevalence, I would say. Certainly, for sure. Now, the question is, who exactly will be playing what? We have Zeppelin on the Dragon Knight. Cry on Skywrath. Arcs on the Terrorblade. Trifasca, once again, on that good old Undying. And I guess the Ravage will be a nice blink initiation. They will have the Coddle Eye to follow it up for some future harassment, and maybe even able to combine it with a bit of the Earth Spirit magnetized damage. But overall, I love what I'm seeing from Team France. This should be able to keep up a fast pace as Dragon Knight wants to try to get the damage in on those towers early. I think the more traditional style works a lot better than the fun Manta Octarine BSJ style of builds. fun as it can be. And I mean, Croatia set up with the Medusa. We've seen her disappoint and unable to get the damage to have impact done today alone. And certainly no reason this game couldn't be any different. So, I mean, it's worth keeping that in mind as we, cut into this game, see what exactly can be pulled off. So the attempt will be for Team France to find their way forward. The Undying to protect a Terrorblade this time around. A lot squishier than the Sven. Most importantly, no Darkseer to profit off of these Dragon Knight and Terrorblade illusions. But you might be able to string together a solid 6-7 seconds of stun between Spirit Breaker bashing the Dragon Knight. And we know the Skyraf's probably going to rush in Atos. It's bound to happen. And when it does, that's a lot of lockdown on these Croatian heroes. Most of them no way to escape a route.
In strength is victory. You fought and died with honor.
Have to be rather worried about it. Tidehunter chilling on the side as we start having the first engagement. DCY getting tagged down on that Ember. Blood Grenade thrown. Counter Blood Grenade from the Coddle, but it's going to be too little too late. The Terrorblade will get the first blood. A slight Bounty Rune advantage set up for the Dire side, but at what cost? As ATX has the Dream situation, but a surprise gush from the side. He's going to be taken out by the Medusa in turn. A nice checkmate. Outplaying, we in fact do have the Dragon Knight mid. He's going to counteract the Ember. The shield will be able to protect him from the early damage. However, do have to keep in mind that it's really about the damage reduction from the Breathe Fire that's always so problematic early. Makes it a lot more difficult for him to get those last hits, and easier for the Dragon Knight to confirm his own. Tidehunter already taking massive amounts of damage through his own illusions with the Undying Decay. Both him and the Coddle struggling to stay alive. And likewise, we're seeing a similar situation the other way around. The Medusa getting plenty of harass off with the Earth Spirit towards the cow. Not exactly able to spill the beans just yet. This game will be no different, as that Blood Grenade should just barely be enough if another right click came in. But of course, having that melee support means it's difficult to confirm that final hit. Don't have the Boundless Strike from the Monkey King. The Medusa a lot more passive in her playstyle. Not able to have that same style of lane dominance. And the cow with the additional mana from Skywrath will be able to take down that Earth Spirit. And this Medusa, rather low, does have her emergency Mango and Magic Stick on standby. Should be enough for her to maintain survivability. She's able to get off the mana regen off the Mystic Snake instead. Of course, the other way around, Undying unable to get the tree block in. Terrorblade still harassing with the illusion. Not doing much damage with it onto the Coddle. The mirror illusions certainly will have a lot more success. It's tied on her, not a single point in the Kraken shell yet, so the physical damage still does plenty. unwilling to use the anchor smash, as it doesn't really help against those mirror images. Tragic as that is.
You fought and died with honor.
Now, a little bit of a quick hiccup. Needed a short pause. Dragon Knight going for the double bracer and the magic wand. You can check out that replay of those lovely first kills we were able to see. The Terrorblade planning to walk back in the lane, but the surprise Tidehunter with the gush. Able to see him caught out. Amazing charge from the Spirit Breaker, able to abuse that repositioning with the bash. Everything's good. He's getting more tangos on top of the second bracer. Investing everything into regen, allowing this Ember to pretty much have his way, a little bit behind in the last hits. It's been a rough day for Ember Spirits today. Not really able to have much love or success. Certainly understandable enough. Tombstone. No one really there to benefit off of it, but does force them to teleport out and allow for a bit of free farming. Come with the cost is that horses should have caught the Dragon Knight, but he's just barely able to dodge out of the way. So now with that Tango, the double bracers, 20 HP regen. So I guess it ended up being worth it after all, as crazy as it seemed. The late Mango keeps the Medusa alive. Maybe it was the Lotus instead, as the cow tried to go fully in for the trade. Punished for it. Skyra continues doing his thing. Here's the Mystic Snake going off. Trying to go for some right clicks and the immediate charge after the teleport. She's left rather low, but under tower should be enough to keep her safe, especially with this Mystic Snake that should let her recoup about 150 health. Get a solid heal in. The creep wave successfully cut to help keep competition going, and the Sentry Ward just in case there were some attempts to block that camp nearby. Of course, that couldn't be further from the truth at the current moment. As the DK has hit his level 6 early, the Coddle may be soaking a little bit too much of that Ember Spirit's XP. Really wanting to deward any vision that Team France might have, but instead, it's a silence, a Dragon Tail Whip. And with that DK ult being out, plenty of heavy damage, forcing the Ember to teleport back to base. And the DK, plenty of time to regen that health back up. The Stun, the Stone knockback should be there to punish, but the silence, even for a moment, the Skywrath will be able to rotate in time to help save his buddy. Still 3 seconds left on the charge. Needs to stay alive to ensure that he can get it off to get the kill on the Earth Spirit. But it won't be in time, and instead the Skywrath has to get the trade as the Tidehunters are moved. This Coddle's unable to help him out. Left low in the roaming. Maybe he'll start to get healed up. I imagine he'll be able to have the Tranquils to regen. Usually that's the case. We finished seeing the DK's first ult, going for the Power Treads next. Even more regen to be able to tank up against this Ember Spirit. With no issue. Yeah, that's a important alternate Kimsey. This Tyner is going to try to rotate last minute with the Coddle to try to get some pressure onto them. But in all honesty, this tier 1 tower bottom is completely done. Just 20% of the HP left. And then we will be forced away without the Metamorphosis, so we'll live for a few minutes longer. No way DNZ is going to be able to delay it anytime soon. Buying the Windlace, unable to get anything else with it. Starting to get these camps stacked. See, whether it's the Beastmaster or in this case the Coddle, a lot of reliance on getting these triple and quad stacks towards this dire triangle. Question is what the next play will be, as we have ganks going in all over the map. The DK is too tanky to die, but 3 dedicated, including the Spirit Breaker, who just got his 6 ult, spamming this Medusa that has not enough mana to go for the ult. If she even had the skill point on it, then the Spirit Breaker will easily be able to get away, as the chains is spent early. So no value found, and most importantly in that side cam, the Dragon Knight getting the Coddle as well, as the Ember teleports out. So it's a 2-for-1 trade. The safe lane removed, not a problem. Team France able to start building this lead that's only going to grow stronger, because as this tier 1 bottom gets torn down, the acid's going to start melting this mid tower as well. A nice deny. Well, at least deny the gold from it. But of course, the ability to lurk, especially to try to steal one of those early 14-minute wisdom runes, very strong. And Undying spending his ult to bait on the Tide Hunter to be forced to spend his own just to survive. Now then go to this dire triangle, which has been stacked. Undying's going to get all this info, see that there's so much to snack on. This Medusa has to start farming it now, because this Tombstone, I don't believe, has been spent. And the Decay will do enough to take any strength that remains, do tons of damage. And now with the Tombstone in, the Tidehunter is going to try to deal with it, but you can see all the zombies starting to spawn around these ancient creeps, allowing the Radiant to claim this triangle, and all the farms being stolen away by Team France. All of it being given away to this Terrorblade and this DK that can comfortably go at it as well. This is the worst case scenario. This Coddle just spent the first 10 minutes of the game stacking camps for the enemy team. They're getting all the neutrals off of it and the gold. Tons of XP levels. And I gotta see that win prediction graph with the leads of everything in a moment, once this all settles down from the chaos, as the Undying does get taken out. Dragon Knight should get away, as much as the Ember wants to try to hunt him down. Now looking at probably about close to a 3k net worth lead. Massive amounts of map control gained specifically by Team France. Only bound to grow momentarily, as the Skywrath has gone for the stronger move and gotten the beast to protect the Dragon Knight from some of this physical damage, ensure he doesn't take too much unnecessarily and can passively heal on the side. And a beautiful Blink Dagger setup. The Earth Spirit caught out in the middle of the lane. Sentry almost dewarded. I don't know how much longer his DK's ult's up. It just ended. There we go. Won't be able to harass this tower any longer. But with the bottom lane freed up, Team France can do whatever they like. Like a stun, perhaps, and with the movement slow, thanks to that Undying, he can barely run away with his Fire Spirit, and the Skywrath will be able to finish him off and confirm it. The Blinding Light, not enough to keep them away. This lead will continue to build. The Spirit Breaker getting some assistance from the Terrorblade that decided to leave the Twin Gate from bottom to be able to join in that lane push without having to spend much on teleporting. Spirit Breaker having to charge towards creeps rather than participate in the fight directly just yet. But now with the Medusa exposed, the Coddle already split from the group. Soon to die from just the raw right click from all that stolen strength. In a little bit of danger of getting picked off once again by this Ember, but as position 5, he's not going to care about that at all. Spirit Breaker will happily run away. This Dragon Knight is too tanky to die. And sure, they defend this mid tower, but it's really a fruitless effort as it's mere right click away that has been provided. The poison will finish it off. Dragon Knight able to confirm the tower. The Ravage dedicated all of the spells, trying to burn him down, and it's taking everything, including the Mystic Stake. Finally, they will obtain a kill on the DK, but at what cost, as this Terrorblade is almost 1.5k ahead of anyone on Team France. The Spirit Breaker is able to keep up with the Medusa in farm. And they've lost every single tier 1 tower, losing map control by the second. And this Spirit Breaker is rushing the Octarine with the Vanguard. Guess good enough for him. The Medusa, only a Yasha to Deimos' name. So no way to get that early gold, and half of the jungle that is there cut off by the Terrorblade. He rotates back through the Twin Gate, able to indirectly split farm the map, thanks to them. However, Spirit Breaker could be in a bit of trouble as the Ember with the Earth Spirit ult able to get on through, but a beautiful blink from the DK will at least delay the inevitable and allow for teammates to rotate. The slow from the Skywrath, no ult able to be dedicated just yet, but even with that Earth Spirit ult still going on, it's not enough. With the decay, the Tombstone starting to slow on in, the Terrorblade rotating, Tidehunter trying to teleport out, just barely getting away with slim points of health. Everyone from Croatian side panicking and running as their jungle gets farmed once again freely by the side of Team France. They have not seen a issue getting this pressure. You can see they actually won it out, getting a little bit of that bonus damage. All thanks to that Ember. But we're seeing a similar story to the first game. We got Team France up to 5k net worth. As much as this Undying keeps giving them gold. He's been caught out every single 2 minutes post a team fight. But it just isn't amounting to much. $600 gold's nice, but this Undying spams voice lines. He's on the pain train. And this Terrorblade's easily 2 steps ahead of the Medusa, having both the Yasha and the Dragonlance. Well, this Ember has a Maelstrom and not much else.
I'll take that.
Trying to look for someone to find bottom. Disappointed as everyone's actually top hunting. Won't find the Medusa, as fortunately she decided to go mid, so it'll be the Earth Spirit. Arguably the other position 5. A little bit more gold than the Coddle currently. But the support's getting picked off, and Croatia will be able to get their first tier 1 and be able to celebrate a little bit of the map control, be able to take that Radiant safe lane away. But they now have to teleport everyone to this tier 2 that's been getting burnt down by this Dragon Knight. Perfectly blinks as the Gush comes in. And looks like he'll be willing to stay around. Tries to think about denying the vision. This is the first right click, allows the Coddle to deny it. But they're not backing out of this just yet. Everyone here in this top lane, they're willing to take this team fight, understanding that Earth Spirit is still dead for quite a while. Well, I'm pretty sure this Dragon Knight's about to be out of his ulti, so everyone from Team France decides to back away, feeling like they've wasted an effective amount of their time, with this bottom lane also being pushed. And yeah, that net graph, you can see it's been slow and steady. It was freeze for the first 10 minutes, but ever since, the net worth growing The win probability growing everything in the favor of Team France. I'm not exactly sure how Croatia is supposed to recover from this. Wanting to get the early butterfly on the Medusa. Perhaps helps with the farming, but again, doesn't really help with the damage. Just helps with the survivability, with this Dragon Knight is not going to care about. Especially the Terrorblade getting a Grove Bow. That's going to synergize terrifically with the Dragon Knight. Amplify all that Elder Dragon form damage. The splash damage. Eventually, just additional magic resistance. Burning. Removing those illusions that got nerfed specifically on Medusa recently. And it looks like that Terrorblade even went for the Diffusal for the extra damage, so it'll be even harder for her to live when she has 3 or 6 illusions with Mantas melting down her pool. The lockdown from the DK plus the Skywrath ulti. Spirit Breaker ulti to follow. The Rapture Ravage is there. But it's just not enough to save the Ember Spirit. And now Earth Spirit also getting burnt down. The chase from the Spirit Breaker able to ensure the Coddle can't get away either with the assistance of the Skywrath to confirm it. And now the Tidehunter has nothing for his own escape as he gets right-click to his doom. The Medusa just trying to split push bottom to get some sort of farm to work with. But everything snowballing out of control. So much damage with the Dragon Knight ult. The Terrorblade Metamorphosis. No idea how Croatia are able to shut this down. As the Ravage is not nearly enough. As the Skywrath has the Spirit Breaker. The DK in this front line. Standing in front. Even as the Undying to help. All these tanky cores. There's no way to pick off the Skywrath harassing on the side. Just in case you think it can't get any worse, that's exactly when the Terrorblade comes in. Yeah, Spirit Breaker. Not having a neutral, a bit odd. 3 Philosopher Stones is also a bit crazy. They still do the minus damage, I'm pretty sure, so a bit odd to not see that displayed for us on the Coddle. As I'm pretty sure it just reduces the damage from bonus. It's not base damage or anything. I guess he wants to try to earn his own neutrals. Cow wants to earn his own grass. Fair enough. A double stack that the Medusa will be able to take. Get a little bit of farm. Not nearly enough to get the butterfly. Certainly get her a little bit closer. And the Terrorblade's already working on that Scotty with the Diffusal. Keep in mind, this Scotty not only does it give all the stats to the Terrorblade, the move slow works independently of the one Dragon Knight's going to have. A nice steal of the 21-minute Wisdom Rune, but he's not going to get here with his life. So much raw damage between the two. I love this build from the Skywrath. I don't think he has the Ados, does he? It's just support items like the Pavis. And just the good old armor reduction. That can help with Roshan. Take a look, this follow-up pick. And you can see his Terrorblade make sure that he can't get away. And yeah, the Skywrath, he's going for the Crimson Guard. He doesn't care about an Atos. He's got the Tranquil. He's got the Pavis. Just worried about the minus armor for the Ember and the Medusa, I suppose. I mean, it also helps for the Tidehunter. Mainly most beneficial for Roche or buffing the Terrorblade, if I'm honest. As Team Croatia will be able to get them from surprise. Even with this assistance, this won't be a fast Roshan. So they will be able to get this rotation in, and the Earth Spirit will be late to the fight, but the DK gives the early warning sign. The Skywrath ult goes off, strings between the Ember and the Tide. now they have to give up the Roach Pit, worry about the fight where the DK and the Undying has been taken out early. Although things seem to be turning around, they're keeping their Skywrath alive. The Sunder comes off at the perfect moment. The damage mitigation from the Tidehunter just isn't enough, but the Medusa certainly will be. It's a team wipe for Team France. A fantastic surprise smoke from Croatia, and this Medusa able to deal enough damage with the Tidehunter, able to freely get those anchor smashes off, that they instead will be able to steal this Roshan and find a way back into this game. That finish was secured momentarily. I think that's going to change the playbook of exactly how this wants to be handled. I'd say the solution is simple, as I'm pretty sure the Terrorblade has not gone for a Manta. He's just going straight for the Scotty and using the Diffusal instead of the Yasha. He does have the Manta. Okay, so he should have had the Dispel to help him, but it's just not enough against the Tide. We'll eventually have that Scotty to try to reduce the regen and have the regen of their own on the Undying. That was picked off early in the fight, so he wasn't able to have that same impact. Was able to get the Tombstone down and nothing else. Wasn't able to get all that sustained damage in, and the Medusa ult onto the DK stopped him from running away. And you can see there's multiple heroes getting surrounded by this Tidehunter anchor smash, denying him from getting the damage in. And when you add that on top of the pulse from the Earth Sphere just consistently happening, even though he's dead, you're not expecting it to kill you, but it certainly can be one of those slow burns like a good old Radiance on the side by surprise. And that one fight was good enough to fully swing things back to equilibrium. Win probability favored on either side. Of course, the net worth still in the favor of Team France by quite a bit. But the gap has been closed for a little bit until I suspect this DK gets probably, hopefully the Axe. It's hard to say. Tier 2 obtained. Medusa going for the Daedalus as the Scotty's obtained on the Terrorblade. Spearbreaker starting to charge in, mainly to try to clear out the creeps. Not planning to take in the fight afterwards. Has the Shadow Blade to escape. Just barely unable to get vision. Both these teams trying to push each other's towers, suddenly backing away as the rotations go in. And this DK locked down by the Coddle, having a hard time escaping. No BKB to disable all of this harassment coming on in. And they'll decide to sacrifice him as fodder as he tries to teleport out. Will be denied. The mystery will be whatever the next big ticket item is for him, as this Ember Spirit now is his BKB, about to get a Gleipnir on the board. Make it quite a bit rougher for these cores to escape. Be a lot harder for Sky to dodge and weave, give that necessary lockdown to piece their way back into this. Croatia are starting to find themselves and their way. The Terrorblade soon to have his own butterfly in the process of the making. It'd make it a lot more difficult for this Medusa. As right now, she's able to freely split shot, doing true damage to every single target. But she won't be able to abuse that against the Terrorblade any longer. Curiously enough, 2 Pavisas, considering the Undying has one as well. So a lot of tankiness. Just trying to farm split pushing as Croatia are trying to push this Aegis advantage, understanding this Medusa has the 2 lives, making it very difficult to kill her as much as the Terrorblade is equipped to do so. Terrorblade could teleport back, but he's just deciding to keep jungling, letting his team delay. Again, not the fastest power push with the Medusa on your team, but it will eventually get there. A nice Lotus to keep her alive. It's like the Pavise on top of it. And to follow. And is left low, and she still only has that 252 health. And she has a minute left on this Aegis, so would like to lose it. But with everyone stacked up, means she can get 1,000 off of that Manta. Instead, the Spirit Breaker is going to attempt the split push. That will suddenly get denied by showing the Ember there. He'll quickly deny his charge last second and realizes that he needs to skedaddle out of there. At least for a moment.
Finders, keepers.
And the hope is for the Terrorblade to keep farming and be able to outscale the Medusa. I feel like this is a very courageous move to go for. I think the main factor is this Tidehunter creating the space. The Ember is certainly flashy. I feel like it's more about the damage mitigation at the moment, being able to have this Lotus to stop all of these stuns that you want to blink and apply to the Medusa. The charges. Spirit Breaker ults even. Do his best to create space, a little bit of presence from the Ember, or actually the entire Croatian team. This Ember has about 2 seconds to get away, has the Shadow Blade, and no one has the detection to chase him down, and he will be able to charge away in time. The Ember Spirit won't be able to roll out to him as hard as he tries. Attempting to get a pick off on the Coddle, left rather low. Eventually the Earth Spirit will be able to roll out all the way over. Dust popped by Team France to try to keep up with all of these cores trying to run around. Isolate him. The Scotty just isn't enough to get rid of this tankiness. Needs more of this raw damage on the Terrorblade. About to soon get the Butterfly, but that is a Metamorph under Arcane. So only have to wait about 40-50 seconds to get it back online. It's left at the quarter duration. This one's about a solid, about close to a minute. About another 12-15 seconds. I feel like this one diffusal isn't enough to deal with the Medusa. I mean, his Dragon Knight will eventually become just as strong, if not stronger, unkillable tank. But with the early Daedalus out and the Javelin, looks like the Medusa will be building that MKB. The Butterfly won't benefit the Terrorblade the same way as she wishes. I mean, the Dragon Knight does have the splash damage, which will have a little bit more success. Doesn't really need that true strike in the same sense. Should turn this into a full smoke gang. They'll be able to isolate the Terrorblade first. Pops the Manta immediately. Late silence after. It's going to cost this Earth Spirit his life, but certainly will be able to kill him with the assistance of the Tidehunter and the Medusa, giving the slow and physical resistance, and even gets the Undying too as a bonus little treat. Daimos with this Medusa, as rough as the start it was, she was understanding her timings. She's been able to make the hero go online, be able to activate, have impact, even have Vindicators to act for that additional survivability. Now suddenly everything's turned on its head at the 30-minute mark. Net worth lead completely eradicated. Map control removed, and in fact in Croatia's favor now. A nice double stun from the Spirit Breaker, catches the Coddle out, but this Dragon Knight does his damage over time. Isn't able to just burst down the Coddle freely. That Tombstone will help ensure the job does eventually get done. Medusa and everyone else starting to back away. The Terrorblade's back for revenge. Unable to blink on in like the DK can, with his own Manta and Ags now finally available. Doesn't have the Octarine, but that should be fine, because with the Scotty and the Spirit Breaker, that'll be enough to hunt down the Tidehunter. The free movement, allowing for so much chase on the pathing. He knows exactly where this Earth Spirit's trying to go, but just a little bit too quick on the moment. Just too much movement, and instead we'll have to use the Manta and go back to farming.
Is under attack.
Soon go for that BKB. The Ember Spirit under vision of the Spirit Breaker, trying to get him with just himself and the Sky Wrath. Able to break the stun, pop the BKB, but I don't think they have an Ados to lock him down, but that's not going to matter. The Terrorblade's here too. Everyone's surrounding him, and it seems like he doesn't have any spirits to run away. He's trying to get to the twin gate, but the only gate he'll be going to is the one to hell, to sit out for a minute. Spirit Breaker is not just the Shadow Blade, but the gem with the Octarine. Close to the Ags too, so he's going about to have that 4 or 5 second charge cooldown, if I recall, which is absolutely terrifying. And a reminder, this Dragon Knight, now that he has this ult, that he has this full Black Dragon, that's going to stack with the Scotty. Tons of movement slow, just direct raw damage. As the things that both Terrorblade and this Dragon Knight wants to do is the exact same Medusa want to do. Tank tons of damage while dishing plenty more back out and slowly cooking your opponent in the oven, or in this case, the towers. Tidehunter does his best to try to mitigate it. But he can continue with the illusions, keep up the spam. You can see, even without any of the Terrorblade illusions, just the Dragon Knight on his own is enough to slow and completely kite the Tidehunter.
Dire's middle tower is under
Only going to go from bad to worse, especially with all this damage. They could get this Roshan a lot quicker. It's a similar move, trying to go for this same sort of gank. Radiant even going for a proactive scan will be able to dictate that they are coming here to go for this exact fight. As the Spirit Breaker wants to charge on in. And they decide to wisely back away, but all that damage given to Roche will give the idea that they're still in the area. The Undying's been caught out once again. He's barely able to get off the tombstone. Does get the ult off in time to survive, plus the Padis. So now the Wrath has to come on in to get the damage. The DK's doing his best to try to tank everything, but it's not enough. Double buybacks forced out as this Terrorblade is trying to man fight directly against the regen of the Tidehunter. The Medusa's been burnt out. No buyback for her, but just the Earth Spirit at the moment, trying to help keep these cores alive as the Tidehunter's running away, taken on down. It's costed them 3. They've spent 2 buybacks, but they have been rewarded for it with 3, soon to be potentially 4 kills as he's still silenced, stun locked to oblivion. And instead of a Roshan, they're going to be going for Rax with all of these tanked up cores, and those 2 buybacks amount to nothing. The Dragon Knight barely doing any damage, it would appear, but the buyback helps. The Spirit Breaker being the main impact with the bashes, getting all of that damage in. But it doesn't matter how much damage they do to the heroes, because they can do just as much to these towers that are melting before them, getting racked before it. And if this Earth Spirit gets a little bit too cautious, he's a blink away from his own demise and being left in a dieback situation. Even just 1 Raxus, they'll be happy enough with to back away. Dragon Knight fallen severely behind in farm. 5k, just 9k actually. 7. Got there eventually on the 3rd. Behind the Medusa. And instead it's the Spirit Breaker almost caught up. Roche now chilling top, so they'll have to travel up there if they still want to go for it eventually. Considering the sound of the twin gates used, sounds like Roche is exactly where they'll go. Wouldn't surprise me to see the exact same gank also put in. An accidental good game that at a time that makes no sense, so everyone knows that's a little bit of irrelevant. But with all that damage they did to Roche earlier, it will help them confirm it now. Now with 2 lives on the Terrorblade, considering I think he spent his buyback in the last fight. No, not him, it was the Dragon Knight. and the cheese on that Dragon Knight to give him the second life. Yeah, we can take a look on this fight here, see what happens. The Undying forces the Ravage to be spent just to take him out. So tanky, causing so many issues, but the Earth Spirit is immediately removed to follow. The Medusa ult is able to take out that Dragon Knight, forced to buy back. Coddle is torn down by that DK once he teleports back in. And then all the slows from the Terrorblade, Metamorphosis, and the Dragon Knight is able to hunt them down and give enough coverage for that Skywrath to stay alive. Now with a good bit of vision, at least what was a good bit of vision, now removed. Don't have any nice views on the Undying or the Terrorblade anymore, but I have a good guess that everyone's around this mid area. Looking to set up for a fight soon enough after finishing this mid tier 2. Blade having used the Manta early on the slow. The Undying once again caught out, instantly pops out everything. The DK stunned for a few seconds. The ult not really connecting on the sky to amount to that much damage. And everyone from Croatia will work together to get that tombstone out of the picture. Blatant Ravage to follow, and an isolated Earth Spirit bound to be taken out, but all of this damage from his ult has to be worth something as they all sandwich together. But the Spirit Breaker is enough with the Silver Edge to do massive damage to the Medusa, take her out on his own, surprisingly. Adds the Coddle to that list. And this Space Cow's a demon from hell, making it 3. The Undying confirming the Tidehunter, the Coddle buying back. As they're not going for base, they're going for the end of the game. They wanted to 2-0 this with the 23k network lead. That could fall away. The Tidehunter buyback, no refresher. They burnt all their big spells, all their big cooldowns, and this Coddle's getting chipped away by the Dragon Knight, unable to find anything else. The Spirit Breaker creating all the space in the world. The Dragon Knight barely able to get that Earth Spirit, locking him down. The Ember loses half of his HP every single one of these Octarine charges with the axe from the Spirit Breaker. It's too much damage. It's too much stun lock. They can't get anything off, and they've been taken out. France with the 2-0 to move on. What a beautiful job by them. A game that looks scrappy. They turned a 90% win chance lead into a 53% chance in their favor. It made Dota think that they had a fair shot in this game, and considering how the first one went, it was good to see them be able to make those creative plays to make it go for a little bit more of a win, rather than just falling apart silent at the last moment like happened in the first game. That was very rough to watch, even though it was due to great play from Team France. A nice showing from the Croatians to have a better performance, but my god, I don't know entirely who the MVP is getting to, but I have a good suspicion, but I'm going to hold my tongue to see if my guess is the same as everyone else's on the other side of the pond. As there has been one hero I feel like that has made the difference in the damage, as pointed out by the Observer in one of those key team fights. Team France was able to win to turn back the tide to their favor in spite of the Tidehunter. Able to cause so many issues that just couldn't be resolved, just being a one-man army that apparently, as far as I'm aware, I almost want to check a replay of it at some point, of that very last team fight. I swear the Spirit Breaker sold the Medusa. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like that is exactly what's happened. With just the raw bashes, he has no way to get attacks off. But we do have our MVP to show off. And my suspicion is wrong. It is actually being given to Trafichka on that Skywrath Mage. Been looking to find success on it all day. Had some flashy Atos kills with it. And now, this time, finally able to finish off 10-1. Despite playing it in that support role. And fair enough, having that Pavis, having that additional armor that it could give to his supports and just other cores, really playing like just the dream support you'd want, not necessarily growing greedy items for himself, but trying to make sure that everyone can survive on the team from this initial burst gank that can happen from the Ravage, from the Medusa, dropping the Stone ult so that your Dragon Knight stays alive, your Terror Blade doesn't get melted down and can strike right back at him. And, you know, to have those flawless performances without the deaths, it really builds up that gold and makes sure that you're not giving that advantage away to the opponent. As, I mean, the entire reason that Graf swung the way is because those kills costed so much for that team wipe to go through on most of the existing heroes. So it's completely understandable to see them find that success. But definitely shout out to the Spirit Breaker as well for how much damage he was doing, allowing to create the space for this Terror Blade and this Dragon Knight, as he's the only reason that they were able to get all these ranged attacks off, as these strong melee cores that turned into ranged. But that is all for us for tonight. A beautiful showing from Team France to close us in a clean 2-0 fashion. Unfortunately, send Croatia out the door. Some strong, hard carries to send the way through. And hopefully no hard tears dragging you down, as you can hopefully recover and get some rest until the next matches in the future. See you next time, and good night.
one purpose, one dream, one rhythm, one step closer to glory.
Enemy spotted.
They say history remembers the winner. So who will be the ones writing the future? The halls of power call for their kings. The ones who won't back down. The ones who believed. The ones who knew that over 100 nations can't be wrong. Join the fight between August 24th and September 3rd as Yash becomes the world's esports capital.
In the heart of Iași, Romania, the world's top gamers have gathered for the ultimate showdown. IESF brings heart-stopping matches across a variety of gaming genres in an electrifying experience that celebrates the passion and dedication of esports athletes from around the globe. This is more than just a tournament. This is where champions are born, legends are made, and anything is possible. Get ready to witness the ultimate display of skill, strategy, and heart. The IESF World Esports Championship. It's about to take your breath away.
Do you think you've got what it takes? The challenge will be tougher than ever. In 2023, international esports has a new home. Over 100 nations fighting for the championship in a celebration of everything that makes esports great. Who will rise up to the challenge? Who will be the world champion?